So here's something truly amazing. Because what if I told you, Catherine, that the way you slept last night, and maybe other nights too, could determine whether you sadly might get Parkinson's disease or even diabetes in the next few years? I think that's stunning information. People aren't aware of it, and we're going to tell people all about it.
Yeah, and what if I told you that one out of four people who think they're getting good sleep are actually damaging their health, their overall health, without even knowing it?
Yeah, and so it's kind of like a two-factor problem that we'll try to help people navigate. And that is number one, sleep turns out to be like a final common pathway for so many different illnesses. If you're not getting enough sleep, you're more at risk for many illnesses, but Parkinson's and diabetes are among them. Beyond that, though, the trouble is that you may think that you're sleeping really well, and you're really not. And so that's the reason why we created, by the way, For Great Sleep. The number four, Great Sleep, is the supplement. You get it at the number four, vitahealth.com, and combined ingredients that really work to achieve quality sleep of a proper duration. So you don't have
Yeah.
to guess at these things. But I think it's totally amazing that they looked at 88,000 people.
88,000 people, they followed him for just under 7 years. And overall, the study found that poor sleep, whether it be lack of quality sleep, waking up in the middle of the night, or not getting enough, it was connected to about 172 different diseases.
Amazing.
Now, not all those diseases affected sleep to the same extent. And we'll talk about the top three that it did affect, but 172 diseases.
And so that's why I call it this final common pathway. But in addition to that, people were asked to measure, as I mentioned, hey, how well do you sleep? And 22% of people said, really, in fact, I get 9 hours of sleep a night. And again, this is thousands and thousands of people. So the margin of error is low that we would be seeing some sort of group of people that misestimates everything in terms of time. Of those people, the average person was getting more like 6 hours of sleep, which is
Yeah.
amazing. So we really don't have good insight into how much rest we're getting. And one of the reasons for that is that one of the things that robs people of sleep is not, lots of things can do it, but stress can really do it. And that's something that we want to address with the supplement For Great Sleep. I know the number four, Great Sleep. So I'd love to talk about that. L-theanine, which is included in our formulation, is for a very good reason.
Absolutely. L-theanine is a very important part of our supplement. It actually comes from green tea. So people are like, oh no, green tea, it's going to have caffeine and it's going to keep me awake. No, it doesn't have any caffeine, and it actually helps promote relaxation and then helps your brain waves to relax so that you can go to sleep. And it calms that racing mind that we sometimes get when we lie down. I don't know about you, but when I go to bed, all of a sudden my mind, I know it needs to calm down, but then I'm thinking about everything I have to do. So I've taken your advice and I have written everything down before I go to bed so that it stops racing and I can fall asleep.
Yeah, exactly. And that's the reason that when we created and formulated For Great Sleep, it wasn't just to zonk people out. That's not going to do the trick. You really need to deal with this anxiety that can crop up when you try to get to sleep and that interrupts sleep too. It's a classic thing. People wake up worried. When it gets out of hand, you can really find it very difficult to sleep. And therefore, you need something that settles your mind, not just something that would snow you. That's not the goal. One of the ingredients in any formulation should be something that settles your mind down and allows you to feel less stress, literally less stress. And L-theanine can do that.
Yes, L-theanine is one of the ingredients, but Let's go back to the study a little bit. So some people may be thinking, oh, it's just another one of those studies. They looked at a lot of people and they come up with some conclusion and they publish it because it's interesting. But this study was very well done. The way they conducted the study was very well done. And also, they looked at so many people. So when you have that many people in a study, you can weed out what could be a what we call a false positive and really get to the bottom of what's true in the human body. Now, obviously, we want studies to be replicated. And so hopefully there'll be somebody out there who wants to replicate this study. But people may be wondering, how in the world do they track sleep for that long? Well, they used wristbands similar to an Apple Watch or a Fitbit, but a different brand. And they can tell by the way the body moves, the heart rate, etc., how awake a person is, or if they're actually laying in bed for 9 hours, but only sleeping for six, which is what this study found.
And the other reality is that they were able, because of the number of people, because of the length of the study, again, tens of thousands of people for years, they were able to look at sleep and say, wait, maybe we haven't been thinking about it the right way. So they took away three very important, if you want, teaching points or secrets about sleep that I think are shocking. One is that it really matters when you go to sleep. It's not just how much you sleep, because people who would go to sleep habitually after 12:30 a.m. had a 2.5 times greater risk of liver disease than folks who went to bed, say, around 11 p.m. And there can be lots of reasons for that, but whatever is keeping people from getting into bed before the morning hours, 12:30 a.m., your liver's keeping score there a little bit, and other organs are as well. Why might that be? You could be stressed, using adrenaline later in the evening. There are circadian rhythms that come into play. Our body's pretty smart. It gets dark for a reason, right? And you get tired for a reason. And then if you're using your screen constantly, and we talk about this revenge that people exact on themselves, where they're like, look, I've been working so hard, I deserve to be able to stay awake and just enjoy myself. We also deserve to be healthy. And it turns out getting to bed by about 11, you're going to insulate your liver, it seems, from this study, from some problems.
Yeah, exactly. And just a thought, maybe that some of the reason that people are staying awake past 12:30 a.m. in our society today is maybe they're out doing a little bit of partying, which not is also going to damage your liver. So recommendation or sleep secret number one, as you said, is get to bed before 12:30 a.m. But another thing that's interesting, we have magnesium in our supplement for great sleep, which, as you mentioned, can be found at the number 4 vitahealth.com. Magnesium is involved in over 300 processes in our body, one of them being regulating our internal clocks. And so that's why, number one, it's in our product for great sleep, but that's also why your body also contains magnesium to help shut down your racing mind and regulate the internal clock. So not only do we have L-theanine in for great sleep, we also have magnesium and other things we'll talk about.
Magnesium is incredibly important to the human body, and a lot of people don't get enough of it to begin with, right? And so taking it as part of a sleep formulation is a nice and novel way to make that part of your routine, and it'll help you sleep. It'll regulate your body clock, your circadian rhythm. And we already talked about L-theanine, which calms your mind. By the way, you can see we're building a kind of stack here. That's what we do. We curate the ingredients that are in the supplements at 4vitahealth.com, the number 4vitahealth.com, I like to say. And there's a second sleep secret that came out of the study, which, again, that's why data is king, because I wouldn't have suspected this, but it matters not just how many hours you're getting. It matters not just when you're going to sleep. It also matters how irregular your sleep pattern is. So folks who would stay up till 2 a.m. one day, get to bed at 11 the next, sleep 8 hours one night, 4 hours the next, they're at much higher risk of trouble physically and aging. They have aging issues at 3 times the rate of people who have regular sleep patterns. And I think that's stunning. It's an incredible thing that if you get on a schedule and you maintain the way that you rest and restore yourself, you can avoid some of the perils, it seems from this study, of aging.
And one of the reasons that is, and I love music. I don't know if you love music, but I love listening
I
to
do.
music. Yeah. And so an example would be that every organ in your body has a rhythm, which we know your heart beats at a certain rate, your cells communicate at different rates, your GI tract moves at different rates. So every organ has its own rhythm. And think of it as an orchestra or a rhythm in music.
I
When
like
you go
that.
to bed at different times, it's like the conductor is up there waving his hands in different ways, or the drummer is playing off rhythm. And so, what magnesium does, it helps to tune in that rhythm so that you can calm yourself down and regulate the internal clock.
Which is amazing. And then other questions come up like, okay, so let's say you get into a regular routine. Great. Let's say that you use a supplement like ours that includes L-theanine, less stress. Good. You'll worry less. Then the question is, well, how deeply are you sleeping? That's another question. And that's one of the reasons, a chief reason, that as we built this stack that's in 4 Great Sleep, we included GABA, because GABA as an amino acid helps the brain get into a deep sleep state. It is an inhibitory, if you will, not bad inhibitory, good inhibitory neurotransmitter, because what's it inhibiting? Things like anxiety. So now this triple threat already, and there are more ingredients than that, but GABA, L-theanine, and magnesium. But GABA is essential. It's an amazing, amazing amino acid.
It is, and that's sleep secret number 3 is adding GABA to your regimen. People might be thinking, I can go out and buy these 3 ingredients on their own and take them. Actually, they need to be combined in certain amounts in order for them to be effective. Not only that, when you go out and you buy, say, a bottle of GABA and a bottle of magnesium and then a bottle of another supplement, you're probably paying 3 or 4 times as much as you need to and getting too much of each ingredient, which can be dangerous. And as we always say, Dr. Abloh, before you start any supplement, make sure you consult with your healthcare provider to ensure that it's not going to interact with something, a medicine that you're taking, and that it's safe for you to use. So, yes, we can stack all these things separately, but we've done it for people to make sure that they get the right amounts and they get them in 2 capsules and 4 Great Sleep versus taking 6 or 8 capsules.
Yeah, and hence the curated part of the way we think about the formulations. Another question that people wonder about is, well, why is it that if I don't get enough sleep, I seem to be more at risk to get sick or feel sick? And there's a real reason for that, which is related to inflammation. Because if you get too little sleep, or it may be that if it's irregular sleep, or if it's sleep that occurs too late in the AM hours, you increase your C-reactive protein. They've shown this. C-reactive protein is a measure of inflammation in the body. Inflammation is bad, right? It leads people to feel worn out. It puts your heart at risk. It puts every organ at risk, in fact. And so what you want is you want as little inflammation in your body as you can, and sleep is one way that we keep inflammation in the body down. Enough sleep and deep sleep, restorative sleep.
And everybody talks about inflammation and how bad it is. We're always going to have some type of inflammation in our body because it's our body's way of correcting itself. So once you get some inflammation, these cells start working together to decrease the inflammation to somewhat of a baseline level. But when that inflammation goes up to very high levels, that you get heart disease, respiratory disease. And in this study, they actually found that poor sleep can cause respiratory illness. And it goes back to your point of why do you feel sick, or why do you feel like you're getting a chest cold or something when you're not sleeping well? It does affect your respiratory system if you're not getting enough sleep. We talked about also the inflammation that can cause Parkinson's disease as well. And that's such a sad disease for people to get. There's many other things that can cause Parkinson's disease, such as environmental issues being one of them. But poor sleep is a contributor, at least as they found in this study. And one thing we haven't mentioned, and I was surprised to find that it actually can affect the kidneys. So your whole body depends on sleep. And so let's help people get great sleep with for great sleep.
Absolutely. And okay, a stunning fact, really stunning, is that studies have shown, this study supports that as much as 20% of 92 different diseases, 20% of the cases may be due to poor sleep. This is like a public health, in a sense, it's like a public health emergency to help people get enough sleep, but it's every individual. The public health is one thing, but your private world is another. And one of the most important things you can do, literally, is get enough sleep. It feels good, first of all. Secondly, you'll think more clearly. But thirdly, you're protecting every organ system. And here, I just want to make sure I get these numbers exactly right. 37% of cases are potentially preventable of Parkinson's disease if you maintain proper sleep and avoid that risk factor. 36% of type 2 diabetes seems to be tied to poor sleep. And kidney failure, 22% seems to be connected to sleep issues. So we're talking about an incredibly important final common pathway, as I say, which we're trying to address. This is for everybody who needs to get enough sleep, to get deep sleep, to get restorative sleep, to not worry throughout your sleep. 4 Great Sleep is the supplement, the number 4 Great Sleep, and you get it at 4vitahealth.com, the number 4vitahealth.com.
Dr. Apple, maybe you can expand a little bit on, we talked about physical and mental wellness is a physical illness as well. It's not just mental, but the study didn't really go into mental health. It talked about Parkinson's, diabetes, kidneys, etc. But given your experience as a psychiatrist for more than 25 years, how does the lack of sleep affect the mental health as well?
Catherine, in so many ways. First of all, there's no question that if you get poor sleep, you're more at risk for mood disorders, you're more at risk for anxiety problems, you're certainly at risk for attention issues. And beyond that, it impacts your irritability level, and that means it's going to find its way into your relationships. So it's going to affect work performance. It's going to affect the quality of your relationships, because when you think about it, if you're going to show up for relationships, you want to really show up.
Mhm.
And if you're at X% of yourself because you're really not present or you're really irritable, it can weigh on marriages. It can weigh on parental relationships with kids, friendships, certainly employment. If you want to deliver your best on the job or in your business, you want to get enough sleep, and you'll be able to do your job longer and keep your business longer, because you'll live longer, I believe, if you get enough of the right kind of sleep at the right time.
That's incredibly interesting, especially given your experience in with working with people for many decades. And one thing that's important to mention as well is that unlike other things that we can't fix our genetics, I can't fix my height. I'm like barely 5 foot. I can't fix that. But sleep problems are behavioral and we can fix them. We can go to bed earlier. We can turn off the blue lights. We can stop the doom scrolling. Those are things that we can fix. Even though it's not easy, they can be fixed, unlike things like our height.
And it's absolutely crucial that people pay attention to this. And just getting into bed may not do it. You may need some help. And that's where a supplement that's all natural, like ours, made in America, like ours, can really come in handy.
Yes, and they're all natural compounds. Our product is manufactured in the USA. You should always look for products that are manufactured in the USA. and make sure that they're tested for purity and potency as our products are, because you just don't want to put something in your body that you can avoid, a toxin that you're not aware of.
And when people go to feelamazingdaily.com, they'll see a lot of information, by the way, on sleep. There's a reason for that. Why? Well, because again, it's tied to so many different issues in health, and it's tremendously important. So I invite everybody to go to feelamazingdaily.com, not just for sleep information, but there is a lot of it there.
Yeah. And Dr. Abloh, can we switch gears a little bit here? We frequently get questions from our listeners now that we're really into this show that we just started not too long ago. But one of the questions that I've seen come across a lot of times is, what's considered a healthy amount of time that it takes to fall asleep?
That really depends on one's level of anxiety, stress, what you're doing prior to bed. Are you exposing yourself to blue light? Because excessive bright lights can keep you up. Generally speaking, people say like 10 to 20 minutes it takes them to fall asleep. That seems to be in the big part of the bell curve. But if you find yourself having trouble getting to sleep, falling asleep, you really want to think about what you're doing right before sleep. For one thing, are you watching TV? Are you doing work right until the minute you get into bed? You need some buffer there, some downtime.
And this is another question that we get is, what about if I go to bed and I fall asleep within like 2 minutes? I'm out cold. Is that a bad sign?
Well, it can be because you may be staying up until you're completely exhausted. And that too shows that you're burning the candle at both ends. I think being kind to yourself turns out to be something tied to longevity in this way. Getting enough sleep because you care to be rested.
We don't want to be sleep deprived, right? We want to make sure that there's a 10 to 20-minute time period that it takes us to fall asleep, so that we're not demonstrating that we're sleep deprived and just getting knocked out right when we hit the pillow.
You really need an action plan. Most people think sleep should be automatic. It should happen whenever it happens. You can stay up as late as you want. You don't need a strategy, but really having an action plan for sleep makes sense.
So here's another question that we get. People that are trying many sleep supplements, they buy them at a pharmacy or they buy them online, but they just aren't helping. Is there something else besides standard supplements that people could do to help them fall asleep?
I think we've mentioned, first of all, literally the curated stack of ingredients that's in for great sleep. I think that helps a lot. They should also be writing down things that bother them before they get to sleep so that you don't have to worry through all of that material while you're in bed. It helps to just note those things. And secondly, you may want to do a wind down routine so that every time you go to bed, you know that this is part of what you do. It might be, if it's a shower before bed, fine. If it's literally writing down those thoughts before bed, good. It's the routine that's important. Maybe you want to put things aside and have things all arranged for the next morning so that your morning's not chaotic and you don't think it will be.
I know those mornings, especially when I'm trying to get out the door for an important meeting and you're like, where's this? Where's that? And I learned in the laboratory a long time ago in graduate school when I was doing research, I would just set up my experiments the night before. Everything was 100% ready so that when I walked into the lab that morning to start, because we had to start them at certain time periods over throughout the day. And so everything was ready, prepared to go for the next morning, so that when I walked into the lab, my focus was on what I needed to do, not pulling test tubes from cabinets and then setting up the experiments.
Absolutely. So have a strategy, use the right supplement if you need it, make sure that you maintain the same pattern. And I think you're going to be thereby insulating yourself from all manner of illnesses to the extent that you can through sleep.
So we have a couple of minutes left. Can we go through a couple of really quick steps on what people can do to help with their sleep based on this study?
I think one of the things that we know is you're going to be patient about picking a consistent bedtime and sticking to it, right? Because we know that the pattern matters, and we know that you need to establish a routine that is replicatable, meaning you can do it again and again. So that's very important. That's number one. Number two, you want to really get the mental chatter reduced, and we have an ingredient in 4 Great Sleep that helps with that. You want to be literally seeing every night as a new opportunity to reinforce the pattern and to make sure that you're able to make this part of your routine in the same way that you would make exercise or meditation or anything else part of your healthy routine.
So again, 4 Great Sleep is a wonderful option. It has L-theanine, it has magnesium, it has GABA, it has B6, which we haven't talked about, but it has a stack of ingredients that are curated to help people sleep within 45 minutes of taking the supplement, and then to sleep throughout the night.
Well, we wish everyone a good night's sleep tonight and every night. We want people to feel amazing daily. Visit the site feelamazingdaily.com.
This program is for educational and informational purposes only and is not medical advice.